Man, I am super stoked to be talking to my friend today, Dr. Roshan Kalra, because of his story and what he has done, accomplished in the young age of 30 years old as a dentist. And we're going to get into that plus a whole lot more in today's show. So, Dr. Roshan, thanks so much for being here today.
Dr. Jeff, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be on.
Yeah, I mean, what you have accomplished now, I mean, it's just unbelievable. But before we get into all that, tell the audience a little bit about you, your background into dentistry, and then we'll get going.
So my dad was a dentist, or is a dentist. My brother's a dentist. I'm a dentist. So it really kind of runs in the family. But I'm the first person to say and step out and be like, no, I want something beyond dentistry. So I graduated dental school in 2017 at Nova Southeastern University, and I first started my first real estate deal in 2018. And ever since then, it's kind of been like a snowball that's just growing bigger and bigger and bigger, and has led to an incredible life. I'm thankful for dentistry to be able to give me the life that I have now, but I definitely see more tremendous growth and opportunity in my other ventures now beyond just having a handpiece in my hand.
So Nova is in Florida, correct?
Yeah, it's in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Okay. So then you finished there, and then did you start a practice, buy a practice?
Yeah, so actually I became a practice owner immediately out of dental school. It was a scratch start practice. It's called Comfort Dental. It's a franchise model.
Mm-hmm.
But unlike most of the franchise models, I don't give a profit cut to corporate.
Mm-hmm.
So we keep just about all the money that we make. There is a royalty, like a 5% royalty. But apart from that, everything is ours. So it's really truly a unique model in terms of dentistry. Most of the models tend to take a much larger percentage or a much larger cut. So I thought the opportunity was great. I got an opportunity to open it up with someone who had been doing it for a little bit, and he went to Nova about 5 years before me, and we hit it off. And so we said, let's open up a practice together. And it definitely, any scratch start is a little rocky at the beginning, but it has been really wonderful. The ability to work 6-hour shifts has allowed me to have a side business of real estate. And so, yeah, it's been a really good opportunity all around.
So that company, Comfort Dental, do they provide the infrastructure, the marketing, the building, everything for you, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it's like a turnkey office that they
Okay.
provide to you. I did have to take out a loan of $350,000 to buy my 50% share.
Okay.
But I got that loan to me by a bank 100%, even right out of dental school. And then after that, we've gone from 2 dentists to now 3 dentists, and we're actually currently looking for a fourth dentist.
Wow.
And then eventually I'll get replaced out of the office itself, and then I'll just be doing real estate.
So do they handle all of the management, the payroll, all of that stuff for you, or do you do
No,
that?
so it is your office, it's your ability to hire, fire, manage. They give you the systems and the tools, but then
Hmm.
it's up to you to make it successful.
Okay.
So it is truly your office. Supplies are mine, my orders, payroll I have to put in, accounting I have to do, everything we have to do just like a normal business owner would. It's just that we get to use the brand Comfort Dental. And when there's 140 offices across the nation treating so many different patients, I get patients from other states that come into Oklahoma and they're like, yeah, I used to go to the Comfort Dental in Colorado or Washington, and I get a lot of name recognition from that way.
Okay. So as you know, when you get out of dental school or you get out of medical school or residency or whatever, most of the time you're in a lot of debt, student loan debt. If like if you start a practice or if you have to buy into a practice, that could be more loans. And typically when you start, it seems like we're kind of like, what happens when you're going down the road and you see like a dead deer or dead something on the highway, and you got the vultures and the buzzards circling, the carcasses.
Hmm.
It seems like it's kind of like that. As soon as we start our practice, the financial advisors, the bankers, the
Hmm.
insurance salespeople, boom, they're all on us. And from
Hmm.
my experience, plus my investors group, it seems to me that they put us on a path that we have to work for 30 or 40 years with the 401k. And that's all I knew because it was the Dave Ramsey way. And then, 401k, and that's it. So what was interesting with you is you finished 2017, started your practice, and then you said you got right into real estate at 2018. How did you even know about it? How did you get started? Tell us about that.
So when I graduated dental school, I was a lot. I think I was a lot more green as a dentist, and I thought, I would be doing dentistry for a long time. But I did decide. I made a promise to myself that after 10 years, I would only be doing dentistry if I wanted to. So my goal was in 10 years to be able to have the income from other sources or have the money available that I didn't need to practice. I only wanted to practice. So I was, third and fourth year of dental school, I was reading every retirement, financial planning, every book I could get my hands on. And just about like what you said, the 401k plans, the best case scenario seemed like 50 years old, 55 years old. You keep saving and investing in these 401k plans, and you might have a couple $1 million nest egg that you can then live off of for the rest of your life. And I thought that was too long. My goal was 10 years. And then I started reading about real estate and I was like, oh, if I need 20 grand a month and I need to replace that, and I am getting $200 to $300 of cash flow a month from each house, I need to buy 100 houses. That means I need to buy 10 houses a year. And in Oklahoma, when houses were 50 to 80,000 back in 2017, 2018, I was like, you know what? If I'm earning a lot of money, 300, 400,000, and I'm investing seriously, I can do this. So yeah, I kept reading more books about real estate in my third and fourth year, and that was set me off the path, and pretty much immediately try to get in as soon as I could.
Do you remember what some of those books were, or do you recommend some of them?
Absolutely. So I must have read over 50 to 100 books, but there's only two books that I really recommend to people nowadays to start. They're like the foundational, the Bible of starting,
Hmm.
and they're the Brandon Turner books, published by Bigger Pockets. I always forget them. I always call them the blue and the yellow book, but
Hmm.
let's see, How to Buy Real Estate.
I
I'll tell
thought you
you.
were going to say Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's what most people say.
I feel like Rich Dad Poor Dad is a great book for mindset, but it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily tell you what your next step is or how to achieve that next step. It
Right.
does tell you to think in a bigger picture. And for sure, Rich Dad Poor Dad, I feel like anyone who invests in real estate, Rich Dad Poor Dad was a turning point for them. And it certainly was for me. That was a turning point for me in terms of the business sense. But what do I do after I realize, okay, I want to have a business, I want to have this passive income? It didn't really go into that. So the name of the book is How to Invest in Real Estate, by Brandon Turner. Um, and there's a yellow book by him and his wife that's also uh, that also I recommend. It's about managing rental properties.
Okay. So your method is mainly being an active investor,
Yes,
correct?
yeah. I mean, that is the only way I could achieve the returns that I wanted to, right? I didn't have much capital. I
Hmm.
wasn't, brand new office. I was, only making barely six figures. And then, last couple of years have been way better than that.
Right.
But in the beginning, you're not making that much money. And then you add on student loans and practice loans, and you barely have any capital to invest with. So for sure, it's very active what I've done, but it's totally possible by anyone. You find a deal that needs work, you buy it, you find a contractor to do the work. It's a lot of oversight and management, which is what
Hmm.
I feel like we do in our dental office anyways.
Hmm.
Um, and then you have a house that you've now rehabbed and forced equity and appreciation of, and you can refinance it and now get your cash again to redo it and scale the business over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you've done that because most of the stuff that I do and that I teach is passive and mainly syndications. Do you have any experience in that, or are you planning on possibly investing in anything like that in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So, syndicators are awesome for people who have already established that they're making so much money in their real estate, or sorry, their dental or professional career, and they
Hmm.
don't want to give up any more time. They have their kids, they have their families, they have the lifestyle they've created that they've perfected, and if they were to give up time, something else would buckle, whether it's sleep or work or something else or relationships. So I find syndications a good, really niche product for someone who already has become a little bit more successful. But if you're like me and you're just starting out and you do have time, then actively will yield much higher percentages and returns.
So would it be fair to say, if you're somebody out there, depending on where you are in your practice, whether you're new or whether you're maybe a little established, would it be fair to say probably one of the first questions you should ask yourself, sit down if you're married as well, would be, hey, if you decide on how I'm interested in real estate, should you answer the question first? Do I want to go the active route like you, or do I want to go the passive route? Would that be kind of one of the first questions to address?
So yes, I would say that's almost like the second question. The
Okay.
first question you need to ask is how much income am I looking to make every month? How much
Okay.
cash flow do I need? And what is that for? Is it to step away from the job completely? Is it
Hmm.
to reduce your hours? Is it to have more family time? Whatever it's for, you have to first figure out your number. And then your number can be accomplished several different ways, right? Mine was 20,000. I figured if I had 100 houses, I would get that 20,000. Or you can say mine is still 20,000, but now I need to invest in 15 syndication deals to make that happen, right? So whether it goes passive or active, you first need to find your number, and then from there you figure out which way you want to go, depending on your scenario. If you're making great money and your production per hour is very good as a active professional, don't lose that and make less money in real estate. That doesn't make any sense to me. So
I
I
have
think that's
calls. I have calls on a pretty much daily basis with investors, and one thing that I always ask that actually is before that question that you said, how much money you need, is why. What? Because you've probably read the book by Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, and then
Mhm.
one of the things in there was one of the characteristics from what he talked to all these really, really wealthy people, Rockefeller and, all the really, really wealthy people. And one of the key traits was every single one of them had some sort of burning desire to get them going. Kind of like if you have a heart attack and you're overweight, well, that's your desire to lose weight so you don't, die basically. So what was did you have like a big strong why that you chose 10 years that you wanted to be work optional, or?
Um, that was no, that was just like 10 years sounded like a good number. But
Okay.
then as I got more into dentistry, my why became I wanted freedom. Um,
Freedom.
Active income is very good, very lucrative, but it's active income, which means, I have to go to work for 6 hours a day and then 2 hours of clinical and, or 2 hours of administrative or whatever it is. But that means I have to literally go from my house to work and put myself there.
Hmm.
Real estate, however, even though it was active in the beginning when I'm rehabbing it, once it's rehabbed and rented, it's essentially problem free. If there is a problem, my property manager handles it. I don't even know about it. So yeah, my big why was being able to get time freedom to do, what I wanted with who I wanted, whenever I wanted, and for whatever reason I wanted.
Yeah, I think that's great. So I think, kind of steps would be figure out what your why is
Mhm.
first, then figure out what's your nut. What do you need a month or a year? And then you want to do active or passive. And then from there, you can start working the process, work backwards, you know?
Exactly. And I was just about to say that, work backwards. Once you have your number, if you figure out, okay, this syndication deal is giving me an 18% IRR, how many of these syndication deals do I need to get to 20,000 a month or whatever your nut is a month, right? Or active, how many houses do I need to produce this much income, to produce this much profit to give me my nut?
Can we do an example? Would you
Sure.
mind doing? Okay, so
Yeah.
one of the main things that I hear, for whatever reason, like the number is, hey, I need 10,000 a month. So could you, if somebody needed 10,000 a month, whether they're completely free or whether that'll pretty much get them free, how would that person work backwards to figure out both with syndications and active?
Yeah, so there is a formula, but the numbers themselves are going to be very specific to your local market because, as you know, real estate is hyper local. What I do in Oklahoma City is completely worlds away from what's done in Los Angeles, And so the formula is going to be, if you, let's say you wanted to go active, right? You find out what an average rental house that you want to invest in is. Let's say it's 250,000. Okay. And $250,000 house. And just for ease of numbers, let's say after the PITI, which is principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, plus, and here's where a lot of people mess up the cash flow, you have to also add in expected amounts for property management, even if you're not managing it, expected just a general number percentage wise of rent for maintenance, for vacancy, and then for property taxes and insurance and things like that. So all of those things you have to have some idea of. And once you find out, okay, my $250,000 house means 20% down, that's 50 grand that I have to put down. And then in return, I'll get $1,000 after all my expenses a month. Then that means I need to get 10 of those houses to get to $10,000 a month. That means I need to get $500,000 invested in real estate. Okay. So then if you can save up $100,000 or $200,000 a year, you know that I'm expecting between 3 to 5 years, if I continue this process, that I can then get to my 10,000 nut a month.
All right. And what about somebody that maybe wants to go the passive route, syndication route? What would you recommend? That needs 10 grand a month.
Yeah, absolutely. The exact same thing, but you would do it with your syndication numbers. So I would ideally, because you can't analyze houses the same way as syndication deals, the deals come to you and they give you an expected pro forma of an IRR, which is an internal rate of return. So then you find out, okay, so if I invest in one of these and it costs $25,000 or $50,000 to invest in one of these syndications, I'm expecting a quarterly payment of $2,000, right? So then okay, well, quarterly payments, $10,000 a month. That means I need my quarterly payment to be $30,000. So then I need to invest into 15 of these syndications at $2,000 a quarter to get $30,000 a quarter. And then 15 syndications times, let's say, $25,000 a month, or $25,000 per syndication, or 50,000 per syndication. You can find out where your number is.
Do you recommend somebody start, because you mentioned saving up 100 to 200 to 300 of whatever you can save up to invest either actively or passively? Would you recommend them setting up some sort of, quote, wealth building checking account or something like that and just start dumping money in there for that?
You'll have to maybe explain to me what a wealth building checking account is.
Well, for real estate, just
okay. Just like a separate checking account where they save up money. Yeah, 100%. Put money in there, and ideally, if you've ever read The Richest Man in Babylon, they talk about paying yourself first. I would put that as my top line expense, and that comes out of my account first into my wealth building, which I then don't see anymore, and the rest is what I live off of. And you just get used to and accustomed to living off of that amount, so that way the rest keeps going every month into your wealth building account, and when you're ready to deploy that dry powder, you have the money ready to go.
And that's the thing. It takes, wealth, to me, wealth building, it starts with in the mind first, right?
Absolutely.
Mindset shift. I spoke last month. A guy reached out to me. He was an anesthesiologist from Chicago. I think he was 41, 42. He was like, I would like to be able to, I'd like to be financially independent in 10 years. So by the time he was 51, 52, I said, okay. And he was making great money. But where he needed to make his mindset shift was, he's like, well, I just don't know how I can come up with the money. And I was like, well, what are you talking about? He's like, well, first I have to put away, I'm putting away $95,000 in, his profit sharing plan and all this stuff. And then where am I going to come up with the money? But, if that's, to me, unless you just make a ton of money, you're going to have to choose one or the other, right? You're going to have to choose putting money away for real estate so you can be out quicker, or go the accumulation method, kind of the, hope and pray, the stock market method. So what do you say about that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I would say unless you're making over 700 grand, you're going to have to make some kind of sacrifices. Like, I feel like 600, 700 grand, that's where you can fund just about every possible, the child's 529, your 401k plans. You can fund everything possible and still have your lifestyle and still have money to put away in your wealth fund. So if you're making less than that, you're going to have to decide what's more important to you. I don't personally think that there's anything wrong with doing the 401k, just as long as you're aware that it's going to take longer.
Mm-hmm.
You may, if that anesthesiologist wants to, be financially independent in 10 years, you may have to just tell them your current plan doesn't allow for that, because you're putting away this into a vehicle that not necessarily is going to give you the returns you're looking for.
Yeah. And you mentioned 529 plan. Somebody told me something that I wish I would have done. My kids are 17 and 15. So I started 529 plans when they were born. But what I'm going to do for my grandkids, and, I'm not sure if you have kids yet or not, but something to think about that somebody told me was, when they had grandkids, when their grandkids were born, instead of them opening up 529 plans for them, what they did was they invested $50,000 in a syndication for each grandchild. So by the time they were 18, it had doubled multiple times, had plenty of money. Mm-hmm. But more importantly, she was going to be able to sit down with that grandchild and talk about real estate, talk about how it's funding their college, talk about, and that was just kind of good. I thought that was really cool. So I'm planning on doing that for my grandkids, doing that. Then, if I'm still around, sitting around with them when they're of age. So I thought that was a really cool thing to do.
That's amazing, because, with syndications, your expected horizon to get your money back is usually a 3 to 5 year target hold. And within that 3 to 5 years, you're getting these quarterly payments, hopefully, as long as the syndication is performing as expected, and you will get a return of your capital, plus usually a return of a whole 100% more than your capital on the exit of that syndicator. So like in 3 to 5 years, you've gotten all these quarterly distributions, and then you get twice the capital you started with. But then you do it again at year 5, and you do it again at year 10, and every time there's an exit, you do it again. I can imagine that being worth at least $1 million, or if not more than $1 million by the time that kid is ready to go to college. So I think that's an awesome idea.
Yeah.
Another thing that is quite like that is you could buy a house that has positive cash flow, put it on a 20-year note, and by the time they're 20, they have a paid off asset that is spitting out not just positive cash flow, because it's been positive since day one, but now it's mortgage free and really positive. So awesome. I think both of those are awesome ideas.
Now, one thing I did want you to talk about, which I mentioned when we first started, was you had a very long Facebook post about how, and it may be more than that now, but at the time you've got roughly a $6 million portfolio with none of your own money, and you just turned 30. So tell us how you did that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's still kind of pretty surreal when I think about it. I try not to think about it too much. But basically what I did was I invested in 2018, I was going broke every month investing in real estate. So I would make $15,000 at my office. Remember, this is my second year of actually having an office. I think I made 180 my second year. One thing about me is I'm very transparent about numbers. I'm not shy to say, okay, as a practice owner, I made 180. That's actually below average practice owner, what you take home. But it was my second year of practicing. So, and it was the second year of a startup. So I think it was okay. But let's say I took home 15,000 after my mortgage payment and my taxes. I might have had like leftover. If I lived very cheaply, I might have had like $6,000 or $7,000 left. Did that again the next month, and suddenly I had 12 to 14,000. Now, of course, even now in Oklahoma, you can't do this. But back then in 2018, 14,000 was a down payment on a $60,000 house or a $70,000 house. So in 2018, I was going broke every month investing and buying another house. I bought like 10 houses that way in 2018, and just buying house after house. And then 2019, I did the same thing over and over again. So I was living very paycheck to paycheck because I was going broke every month investing. It's a very aggressive lifestyle. You have to keep your cost of living low to do it. But now I'm at a point where I do have this portfolio and I have all this equity. And so definitely it has succeeded how I planned. But the way I did it, I acquired a lot of real estate. I also got a partner in late 2019, and we bought real estate together. And that kind of accelerated my curve of buying houses. And as we bought all this real estate, we did put a lot of money into them. We put up probably, I estimate, around 400 to 500,000 in this whole $6 million portfolio. And then this year, last May, I refinanced the entire portfolio, and I was able to pull out all my money plus a whole extra couple $100,000. And I still have about 10 properties I've yet to refinance. So I refinanced most of my portfolio, gotten all my money from my entire portfolio, extra money, and I still have some properties that I have to refinance where I'll make a couple extra $100,000. So I got all this money now coming in because of that. And yeah, I have there's still money in the deal, but it's all bank money. It's no longer my money that I have left in the house.
That's awesome. So do you have somebody that's managing all this for you, tenants? And if so, when did you add them to the mix?
Yeah, absolutely. There is no way I could handle this whole portfolio. And I just went on a 45-day honeymoon. There's no way I could have gone out of the country and done all this if I didn't have a manager. Having a team and a network is super crucial to scaling your business. You have to be able to delegate a lot of responsibility out. As far as your question, my first 17 houses I managed myself because at that time I was making 180,000, and I was thinking an extra 15,000 in property management fees is like me working an extra month. So just by not having a property manager, it was like having an extra month worth of income. So I did that, and then it got to the point where my dental business was suffering because I wasn't fully there like when I was at the office. And my real estate business was suffering because I wasn't scaling it as much as I needed to or as much as I wanted to, because I was worrying about the tenants I had currently. At that point, I knew it was time to get someone else. So I waited until my seams were bursting and I was like, I can't do property management anymore, and then handed it off. And I went through one really bad property manager, but now I have a really good one, and she's helped me tremendously.
And do they take care of so you have a CPA maybe that takes care of all the books and everything separate from your practice, or how do you manage that?
Yeah, so the property manager will give you like a year-end statement with all your expenses. I hand that over to my CPA, and they will do their magic to figure out exactly what my profit was and how much I'm supposed to be taxed on. Because as a real estate investor, you get all these benefits to lower your tax basis. So even if my profit was 80,000, my CPA may be able to work it and say, no, you only made 12,000. So I hand that all off to my CPA to take care of.
And are you filing real estate professional status?
I can't because I make more money in dentistry now than I do in real estate. Even though I'm making, 10 to 15 a month in real estate, if I'm making way more than that in dentistry, I can't file real estate professional status. But what I did get married last November. And so now what I'm going to do is have my wife, we're going to file jointly, have my wife file for real estate professional status, which will carry over to me.
Gotcha. Awesome. So what's really cool about you is you're not keeping all this information to yourself. You're putting it out there, and that's how we actually connected on your Facebook page. So you have a Facebook group for dentists and physicians and their spouse. Oh,
did I lose you? Sorry. Are you there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think my computer froze a little bit. I missed the last maybe 20 seconds.
Okay. I had said that what's really cool about you is that you not only do you keep this, not only have you been real successful, but you also share as well. And you have a Facebook group for dentists and their spouses, physicians and their spouses. Plus, you have an event coming up as well. So, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the dental group, the real estate group is called Real Estate Investing for Dentists. However, we welcome all physicians and their spouses as well. Basically, the stuff we're going to talk about is, you're going to invest $50,000, you're going to invest $100,000. It's not really applicable to the average American when, most Americans don't have enough of a money for even an emergency fund, right? So we've tried to create it specifically for that group of people that real estate can really benefit. And so, yeah, it's real estate investment for dentists. Nathan Ho and I are co-owners and we co-run that group.
I'll put the link below this video for everybody.
I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. And then as far as the event, it's called Real Estate Investment Summit, and it's for dentists and other professionals. It's September 9th to the 10th in Dallas, Fort Worth, or technically Arlington, Texas. Mm-hmm. And you go to dentalwinwin.com and that'll take you to the website where you can sign up. And we have, I'm talking about residential investing because that's my bread and butter, and no money down investing because I'm pretty good at that too. We have some people talking about short-term rentals. We have experts talking about short-term rentals, an expert talking about commercial, someone who's actually already retired from their real estate. He's talking about his real estate life cycle. We have a lawyer talking about asset protection, and
you have the page that you could show us.
Yeah, let me share my screen here. So right here, yeah, we have 6 speakers. We have syndicators as the VIP panelists. So people coming will have an opportunity to talk to syndicators. With syndications, a lot of times you're not necessarily evaluating the deal as much as you're evaluating the operator, the syndicator. And so getting to meet the syndicator in person and talk to them and get a feel for them, I feel like is invaluable in terms of feeling comfortable giving someone you don't know $50,000. So we'll have some syndicators there. We'll have asset protection, wealth building strategies. So we'll have a really good event. I'm actually going to do a little. It's not in here, but I'm going to do a little bonus session on credit card hacking, how I use my credit cards to get all these points. And I don't have any credit card debt. I don't have, overspend or anything like that. But many times if I'm rehabbing a house, I'm going to end up spending $30,000 over the course of 2 months. And that's all on credit cards. And that gives me a bunch of points and how I use that to travel the world, because I do love traveling, and my wife and I go travel the world quite frequently, and all usually for free on credit card points.
Yeah, because we talked a little bit before we started recording about somewhere that you went, and it was like a $9,000. Was it like a $9,000 total or $9,000 a night room that you got for free?
Yeah, so the rooms were would have been $9,000 just the lodging. It was in the Maldives. It
Wow.
was yeah, it was about a $1,500 a night room, and we got that entire $9,000 completely comped on points, and not a huge amount of points. Totally doable amount of points for any kind of physician or doctor or dentist
Mhm.
have that kind of spend. And basically, the way to do that, we're going to be talking about all those kind of tips and tricks in that little bonus session.
Awesome. And I do like how you spoke about with the syndicators regarding getting to know them, because I think people get so caught up in the deal, like, how much is this deal paying or this or that. And I just got back from Virginia last week. I've been talking to a group about investing with them. Uh, Spoke with some of their past investors, spoke with some of their current investors, looked at their track record, but I always want to meet them before I invest with them and before I recommend them. And once, we all went out to lunch, and, I really got to figure, you really see how they are, what's important to them, the family or whatever. So to
Yeah,
me, that's,
trust your
that's,
gut. Trust your
yeah,
gut. I mean, sometimes you'll go wrong, but most of the time you're going to be right on the money.
because I
Literally.
mean, if you're putting your money away for 5, 7, or 10 years with somebody, you're investing in them. It's a people business. So that, if I could tell people out there, if they're going to get into syndications or invest with somebody, a partner or whatever, make sure you know who you're, investing with.
Yeah, my partner that helped me accelerate our growth curve of the portfolio, he tells online publicly and tells me publicly, he's like, I wasn't investing in the deals. He was investing in me. He felt like comfortable with what I was doing, and that I knew what I was doing, and also that I had that goal to have that freedom for myself. And he was like, I'm investing in this guy. And so he tells him all the time that. And yeah, I absolutely agree with you. You're investing in the syndicator more than you are the deal.
Excellent. Well, I really appreciate your time, and we'll put all the links to your Facebook group for your meeting below. But before we go, um, if you got somebody out there that's just out of training, or just starting a job, what are maybe just some 2 or 3 things that you would recommend that person focus on if they want to be financially independent 10 years or less? Where do they start?
The first thing, man, 2 or 3 things. You're making this tricky for me.
You can let's say 3 to 5 things
Okay,
about that.
okay. So the first thing you got to do is control that lifestyle. When you go from 50,000 income from loans to 200, 250 or more, if you're an anesthesiologist, like that person's probably making 400,000 that we talked about earlier. You go from that small amount of money to that huge amount of money. You can always outspend your income. So keep your lifestyle inflation as low as possible for as long as possible and bank the rest. That will be huge. Have an
Mhm.
emergency fund 3 to 6 months in the beginning, and then as you get more money, get a year, put it away, and just don't even touch it. Just okay, it's making 0.01%, but at least you know that if you get hurt in a ski accident, or you die, or something happens to you, your family's okay for at least a little bit, that you've done your part. And then once you've done that, invest only in cash flowing assets, right? A lot of people like to put their money in assets that they feel, they're like, oh, I feel like this is going to be good. If it's not cash flowing, and it doesn't actually make that logical sense, you're never going to get to the point where you can actually retire off of it. If you're trying to retire in 10 years, you need that cash flow. That's what you need to go for. So there's your, yeah, 3 things right there that I think. I would say one more thing. Fourth is invest in the cash flowing assets, but then stay the course. It's extremely boring and hard to stay the course. It's very easy to go from long-term rentals and be like, yeah, let me try an Airbnb now. I'm making more money. Let me try this now. Every time I've gone away from my bread and butter, I've made less money than if I had just stayed the course. So, I feel like this is one of those lessons that you learn just by doing it.
Mhm.
most people hear it, but they don't take it to heart until it happens to them. So just be consistent, stay the course, and it'll happen.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Roshan, thanks again for everything that you've done. Again, we'll put the links below this video, and keep up the good work.
Appreciate you. Thank you for having me on here. It was an honor.